Good morning. Welcome, everybody, to the Infinity Workforce Solutions Fast Forward webinar series. Appreciate y'all taking some time to join us today. I know it's a little difficult to find time in this crazy business about trucking, but thank you all for joining. Uh, we have a really interesting program. It's very interesting to me, and I think you all will love the information. Today's program is about recruiting, retaining, and managing Gen Z for your workforce. Generations all kind of operate a little bit differently, so it's important to know this one, the most recent generation. I believe that some of the Gen Z folks are now old enough to have a commercial CDL. So we're excited to get some information about Generation Z today. Couple of housekeeping things. Everybody that's logged in is muted, so we can't hear you. So if you have comments or questions, there's a chat box there that you can put your question into. You can also use a Q&A box down there, and we can see those on this side, and we'll try to take those questions pretty much toward the end of the presentation and try to get those questions answered for you. I'm also joined today by Mark Ray. Those of you that have joined our webinars in the past know Mark pretty well. Mark's a veteran in the industry, and I'm sure, Mark, you've been involved in a lot of recruiting and a lot of training in your life. Got any comments before we introduce Lindsey?
No, I'm very much looking forward to today's webinar. Lindsey, I'm going to say, is an industry champion representing the commercial trucking industry and specializing in introducing Gen Z and entry-level employees and making sure they understand that driving a big truck is a very, very good profession. So thank you for all the work you've done promoting that for our industry, Lindsey.
Hey, it's my pleasure. I love what I do every day.
Great. Well, let me introduce Lindsey. Lindsey Trent is the co-founder and president of the Next Generation in Trucking Association. That's a nonprofit trade association with the mission to promote trucking as a positive career field and create trucking programs while encouraging training and employment of young people in the trucking industry and connecting them to training and employment opportunities. Lindsey is passionate about introducing young people to trucking and the opportunities it can provide, leading her to revolutionize the industry by launching education and industry partnerships that aid in creating a skilled, diverse, and equitable workforce. Lindsey serves on the board of directors of the Kentucky Trucking Association and several school advisory boards, including Fairdale High School, where she helped start their diesel technician program. Lindsey is a graduate of Purdue University and resides in Louisville, Kentucky, with her husband and 2 kids, where she enjoys working out, golfing, traveling, reading, and spending time with her family. So without any further delay, Lindsey, I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, I am really thankful to be on the call today and talking about one of my favorite things. 2 things I want to say is thank you, because Vertical Alliance is a part of the Act One group, and Act One just decided to be a champion sponsor of Next Gen. So we're happy to partner with you in that. And second of all, I got into trucking 12 years ago, and one of the first things I did as a part of my role was to go through all of the safety videos that you all have. If a new driver is to start orientation at a new company, I went through all of those, and it taught me a lot about trucks and trucking and all sorts of intricacies in being a professional driver. So I highly recommend going through those videos if you're new to the industry. So today, what we're going to talk about is Gen Z and how to recruit, retain, and to manage them, what they're looking for. And why is this important? Well, it's important because by 2030, Gen Z is going to make up 30% of the workforce. And so today, a Gen Zer is probably 12, 13 years old, all the way up to 26 years old. So it is likely that if you're hiring people to come work for you, you're hiring a Gen Zer. Or if you're marketing to them, hey, these are some things that we need to be saying because this is what is attractive to Gen Z. And why is this important? It's important because we have a driver shortage, right? 70% of everything is brought to us by truck. If I look around my room, most everything was brought to me by a truck. And we learned the harsh realities of this during COVID when grocery stores did not have things on the shelves, and people started learning that without trucks, we as a nation cannot survive. So it's important to know that freight is going to continue to grow. By 2030, it's going to grow 25%. And compounding that is that there's a shortage, right? We've got a shortage of technicians. There's a statistic, and that is that there's 177,000 new diesel technicians needed between the years 2022 and 2026. And the ATA says that we're 160,000 drivers short, and that's going to continue to grow as more baby boomers retire, as freight grows. So what are we going to do to attract Gen Z to the trucking industry? But first of all, I just want to take a step back and give you a quick introduction of who I am and who Next Gen is and what we do. And so I've been in trucking 12 years, and I literally knew nothing when I got into it, but I wanted to get back into a sales role. And so I started working for a driver staffing company. And I loved what I did every day because one day I'd, be at a granite company that ships granite. I'd be at a food distributor the next day. Then I'd be at a trucking company that hauls auto parts. It was touching every industry by being in one industry. And I loved that. The people are down to earth. But learning the industry and the problems, we always talked about the driver shortage, the aging workforce, young people not getting into the industry. So I did driver staffing 6 years, and I worked for Ryder for 4 years. Well, we were short technicians, and we needed technicians in all of these markets. And so we started developing this idea of creating a trade association, calling it the Next Generation in Trucking Association, and really putting an emphasis on education. And so that's what we're here to do. We're here to promote trucking as a positive career field. And we're here to create partnerships with high schools, community college, career technical education centers, and really try to help schools start programs. A lot of schools around the country are starting plumbing programs, culinary, cosmetology. Why can't they start a supply chain program? Why can't they start commercial driving or diesel mechanics? And so that's what we're here to do, is we're here to work with schools, put it out there that we need programs in the supply chain and help them get those started. And then bridge that gap between industry and education. And so here's some fun things that we get to do. In a couple months, we'll be actually it's in October. So just next month, where does time go, right? We'll be at the Future Farmers of America, their national convention. And last year, do you know how many students came to this convention? It's in Indianapolis every year. 72,000. So it's huge. We've got a huge booth where we have a driver simulator. You can see in the pictures. We've got the VR headsets. You can see the pictures. You can change the oil on a truck, change the tire of a truck with these VR headsets. We've got some national tank truck carrier the grand champion driver, and some of the finalists there talking to students. It is a fun-filled 3 days, action-packed, talking to students. So we do a lot of things like that. So career branding, but we're also at a lot of like education conventions, talking to the school counselors across the country, talking to the educators and administrators, and really helping them to be aware about the trucking industry, because we are seeing a trend of people not wanting to go to college, and we want to provide opportunities where they know, hey, this is a great career field that they can get into. So what we're doing is starting programs in these verticals: supply chain and logistics, medium and heavy duty truck technician, and commercial driving. And so here's some more fun things. This picture up there is a donated truck to one of the high school programs where we've helped them start their commercial driver training program. So a high school senior gets their CDL while they're in high school. And we had a student that this year he switched high schools so he could go get a free CDL at the other high school in the county. So we are getting these programs started all across the country. Our co-founder is Dave Dine. He started this high school training program. So he started it. This is his 8th year teaching it, and we're trying to replicate his program across the country. On a side note, Dave has been named California's CTE Teacher of the Year. So for the whole state of California, of all of the career technical education programs, whether it's welding or plumbing or automotive technology, Dave has won for California. Then he went on to win Region 5. So, 5 different states are up against each other. He won that region. And now in December, we'll be up on stage for him to hopefully win National CTE Teacher of the Year. And we're hopeful in that it will push for this initiative that we have to spotlight the trucking industry, spotlight training programs for the younger generation to get these young people into our great career fields. So let's get into the meat of the presentation. And on a side note, hey, you can follow us on all social media platforms, connect with me on LinkedIn. Love to chat more with you about what we do. But from here on out, we're going to talk about Gen Z. So Gen Z, they were born in 1996, between 96 and 2012. And so what are they looking for when they are searching for a job? So say they know what they want to do, but now they've got to research what company they want to go work for. And so we're going to talk about a few of these things: your website, videos, Glassdoor. What is Glassdoor? Social media, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, and giving back and sustainability. And these are some of the things that they're going to be researching when they're out there looking for what company they should go work for. And we're going to talk a little bit too about what Gen Z is attracted to in the trucking industry and some messaging behind that you can put out there, because maybe they're just exploring a career path, but they want to look at your company and watch videos, and what messaging can you give them, right? So Mountain Truck Lines does an amazing job. If you want to go take a look at a company that showcases their drivers, and they have a social ambassador program where they identify drivers that would like to be a social ambassador for their company. They might pay them a little bit extra per month, but with that, they've got a set amount of videos that they have to post and tag Mountain Truck Lines. And these videos can be really anything about, technical aspects of a truck, a day in the life of a driver. Hey, this is my delivery. How do you tarp? So it's very story focused, right? This is who I am. I am a professional driver, and I want to show you what I do. And this is the company I work for. And so considering to start a program, a social media ambassador program for your company, is a great way to start telling the stories of your people. And why is it important? On average, Gen Z watches 3 hours of videos a day. So they're on their phone. And if you have kids, if you have grandkids that they're in this age range, this is a correct statistic, right? They're on TikTok, they're scrolling through videos, they're watching them. And so we need to tell the stories of our employees on our website, on our social media platforms, and we need to try to compound that and put that messaging out there. We want young people to know all about the trucking industry, about careers, about what we do. I have a funny story. So I have, being in trucking and now starting this organization, the Next Generation in Trucking Association. I mean, my family, they know what they do. They come to the Mid-America Truck Show every year. My daughter went to Women in Trucking with me. They're at it with me. And my daughter and I, this was several years ago, and because she's now 14, but we were driving down the road and she said, "Oh, Mom, look, that's a reefer truck." And I said, "Well, how do you know that?" And she said, "Oh, TikTok." So because of me, she follows some people on TikTok and she sees what they do with their truck. They talk about the loads they haul, how they have to clean the truck after they deliver. And so it is something that is happening out there. These kids are watching these videos. So if you can get some of them posted, I highly recommend to start posting on Instagram and LinkedIn and all of those things. Tell the stories on your website. There are 2 different ways on your website that you need to be talking to drivers. One, the drivers that work for you. They might need to have their own landing page. But 2, new drivers, people who are exploring your company. Where can they go on your website to just learn about your company and make it easy for them to see who you are, to read about you, to watch videos, to hear stories of who you are, and highlight your people. Women in Trucking, they say this, it's all about telling the story, right? That's what you want to do, is tell the story of your employers, your employees, where they've been, where they're at today, and how you've helped them get there. And it doesn't have to be fancy, right? Take out the phone and just go for it. Don't make it perfect. Just let them be out there telling their story. And that will go strides for you, get you far. So of course, social media, Gen Z, when they're researching jobs, they are looking on LinkedIn. So don't just always assume that it's for the older professional, because Gen Z, when they go to look and research companies, they're going to be looking at LinkedIn. Of course, Facebook, that's for us older generation, but there's 60% of Gen Zers are on Instagram. Of course, TikTok, if you can start putting videos and having content on TikTok, that would be great. If you say, I have nothing on social media, then just start one place, right? Don't overwhelm yourself and say, hey, I've got to start everything, but start one place and do it well, and decide what you're going to do and start getting a following. Get all your employees to follow you. Incentivize your employees to make posts about your company and ask them to share posts that you make, ask them to comment. So start developing a plan to get your employees engaged in your social media and sharing to their network of people. And this is going to be very attractive to Gen Z when they go and look and see the stories of their people that they're reading about the company that they work for. Here's another one that some people aren't really aware of, and that's Glassdoor. So here's a company on Glassdoor that has, and if you don't know what Glassdoor is, it's basically kind of a review of companies. So you can go in and you can get your profile. So if put your company in there and take your profile and then start doing things with it. It's free. You can have your employees put reviews on there. You can put salaries on there. There's interviews, and then it talks about there's photos, there's benefits. And I think this is really interesting that you can see here is this, CEO, approve of the CEO, 72% would recommend to a friend. So they're doing a great job of staying on Glassdoor and being interactive with people on Glassdoor. And then here's another company. This is a great company, but they've never claimed their profile. People are still posting about the company. on Glassdoor, but they've never gone on there and officially claimed their profile and started writing things up there, right? So if you haven't claimed your Glassdoor profile, do that today, and interact with the reviews on there, put some photos on there. Ask your employees to go in there and review you and to give their honest opinion about your company. Hopefully, if they've been an employee of yours for a long time, they'll have favorable reviews of you. And this company, I mean, they have favorable reviews. Look, 100% would recommend to a friend, but they've never claimed it on Glassdoor. So go in there and make sure you've got that on Glassdoor and that you're actively engaging with it. Another thing that Gen Z is very receptive of is that diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives. Why is that? Well, this generation, Gen Z, is the most diverse generation that we've ever had. And so it's very important to them. And they want to see diversity as a focal point on your website and your social media, and highlight your diverse population of employees. They want to see people like them that are employed by you. And so make sure that you are putting efforts to have a diverse and inclusive workforce. Another thing that Gen Z is really interested in is giving back. They don't want to just work for somebody that's all about making money and, getting the man rich, right? They want to pay it forward. They want to say, hey, I'm going to work for a company, whether it's a big company or a small company. I want to see what I'm doing to contribute to this company and help them and how they're helping the community. It's not just about the bottom dollar anymore. It's about a bigger than themselves thing. It's bigger than ourselves, right? What can we do to help those around us? The world needs helping. What am I going to do as a part of my career, as a part of my job to give back to the community? So make sure when you are messaging who you are as a company that you highlight what you're doing, even if in your mind it's something as simple as, hey, we are going on a cancer walk this weekend. The company is a part of that. Hey, highlight that. Make sure that you are, any little thing that you're doing, you're highlighting that you're giving back to your community. Another really important thing is sustainability, right? They hear this over and over again. They're learning, green technology. They want to have a cleaner world. And what are you doing as a company to build sustainability into your culture? Maybe it's a recycling program. And, to you, that doesn't seem like a big deal, but hey, put it out there. We care about the environment. We have recycling at our facilities. That's an electric truck. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. That truck is in Louisville, Kentucky. We've got 6 of those in Louisville, Kentucky. They're electric trucks, and highlight that if you have an electric fleet or anything that you're doing to help make trucking more sustainable. What are those things that you're doing as a company? Because Gen Z really cares about the earth, and they want to work for a company that cares about the earth as well. So if you message all of that out there, then you are going to be appealing to Gen Z as a generation. In fact, I was meeting with a company yesterday and they said to me, oh, we have a new facility. We just planted 150 trees around our facility. And something like that is really important to be sharing. I mean, it might seem to you like a minor thing, but to somebody that's looking for that is important. Hey, and who doesn't want to have cleaner air and beautify our working environment, right? So how can you retain Gen Zers? What they're wanting in a company, they're wanting a career pathway. Like, what are you doing to develop them? They're wanting flexibility. They want to be a part of a company culture that's bigger than them. They want to be paid well, compensated well, and they want continuing education. So we're going to look at those now. Trucking. I'm telling you, I would go into a room of safety professionals and I ask, hey, how many of you started off as drivers? Raise your hand. And I would say 3/4 of the room usually raise their hand. You talk to operations managers, recruiters. They started out a lot of times as a driver. There are so many different pathways. Forklift operator, they earn their CDL. And the CDL driver becomes an operations manager. There are just so many ways to get into trucking and then build up your career from there. And so we need to highlight the stories of the people that work for your company now, where they started, where they are today. And we need to highlight how we can invest in people and take them to where they want to be. So Gen Z, they want to be invested in. They want to go and work for a company that cares about them, that wants to invest in them as a person, as their career path unfolds. And so they're going to look for companies that are offering career paths and ways that they can better themselves. Here's a great example at Performance Food Group. Is started out as a warehouse person, goes into management, supervision, and now where he's at. And when you want to go and work for somebody that's been there for 18 years in a lot of different roles, and obviously cares about what he does, cares about the company, cares about his job, cares about the people that works for him. And so if I'm reading this, I'm thinking that company wants to invest in me, and other people have worked here for many years. So maybe this is something that I can do. So tell that story on your website, on your pictures, sharing it through social media. That is important. Another thing that is very attractive to Gen Z is the different jobs that trucking has. I mean, right here, Performance Food Group, a food distributor. Those jobs are a little bit more physical, or a flatbed company. Maybe somebody wants to travel the world and see what the country's like and travel with their pet, right? Talk about all the different opportunities that you offer at your company. Hey, I have to give a plug for Infinity Services, right? You all have, you're working with companies to invest in their employees. And I did your training. I know what it's like. I learned a lot from it, and I became better because of it. And so make sure you have a robust training platform to continuously educate your employees. I mean, do you want to say anything about this and why companies, Steve or Mark, should have continuing education for their employees?
Lindsey, I'm going to say for the Gen Z, it's kind of an expectation that they have ongoing training. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and I would add to that. One of our primary focus is frequent and consistent training in order for people to develop the appropriate behaviors for whatever they're working at or whether they're trying to get to. It has to be an ongoing process. We've made it very easy. It's very fitting with a smartphone app where they can consume the videos and take the training wherever they are with their phone. So I think it really fits the Gen Z profile. And I also should mention, maybe this is a good place to do it. Some of the young folks from this generation coming into the industry will have to complete the entry-level driver training, which we also offer on this platform. So the theory portion that you need to take to qualify to get your commercial license is available through this platform also. So I think there are plenty of opportunities here, obviously, for that generation to get good quality training, can do it in a way it's convenient and familiar with them, and to help them kind of get started in this business. So thank you for the kind words, Lindsey. Appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's right. I mean, we've got to make sure we've developed training programs for our employees, and where can we help them better themselves, which is also going to help us, right? It's going to help us to have a safer fleet, and all of those things are what we want, and that's to get home at the end of the day safe. Another way is, apprenticeship programs. Fastport, they have apprenticeship programs that you can utilize through the Department of Labor. They'll make it easy for you and do the reporting. They've got diesel tech apprenticeship programs, commercial driving programs. And so if you've ever considered doing an apprenticeship program, it helps with retention. I think it's like something like 90% of people who go through an apprenticeship program are there still 1 year later. So what can you do to develop your employees and put them through an apprenticeship program, and that, finishing program, and maybe they're a new driver, but you're going to help train them to get them standardized to how you as an employee want to have your drivers. And so I highly recommend an apprenticeship program. And if you are not familiar with the Safe Driver Apprenticeship Pilot Program, there is something going on right now that 18 to 20-year-olds can cross state lines if they're with an approved carrier. And so if you have thought about getting into the Safe Driver Apprenticeship Pilot Program, now is the time to do it. We need the data to say, hey, are 18 to 20-year-olds just as safe as somebody who is 21 years old and can cross state lines? And so the apprentices that are in this program now are telling us, going to be giving us the data to say, hey, maybe in a few years from now, 18-year-olds are going to be able to drive across state lines. 18-year-olds can get their CDL, but they have to haul intrastate freight inside the state. And so this program allows for 18-year-olds to cross state lines and for them to be developed. But the big thing is are they as safe as, say, a 24-year-old that gets their CDL? Apprenticeships are amazing. I met this student driver. He literally had just gotten a CDL. I was at a conference and he came up to me. He was a part of the wait staff at the conference, and he was so proud. He came up to me and he said, hey, I just want you to know I got my CDL, and in 2 weeks, I'm starting my first trucking job. And this gentleman, he was out of New Orleans. He was 21 years old, and he was really excited about his future. So he stayed home. A lot of his friends went off to college. And so we had a really interesting conversation. A lot of his friends were starting to come back from college. They had all this student loan debt. Whereas he researched, he got a CDL, had it paid for through the workforce. We owe him funding, so he didn't have to pay anything for it. And I was like, well, tell me why are you excited? Like, what makes you want to be a driver? And he said he was excited to see the country. He was from New Orleans, and the only few times he left is when there was a hurricane. So he was excited to see the world. He was excited because he was going to work for a flatbed company. So he was excited about getting a little bit of exercise and having movement while also being independent. So, we know truck drivers are making a lot of their own decisions. They're independent. They are their own boss on the road, making those decisions based on the company they work for, based on their customer, but it is an independent job. And the last thing he said is that he also wanted to get off his mama's couch. And we know that you can have financial independence as a professional driver. And that is attractive to Gen Z. His friends are coming home with all this student loan debt, and he was getting ready to start his career debt-free, ready to get out on his own and see the world. And those are attractive things to Gen Z. So sell that messaging to them and open their eyes to a new world. Another thing that Gen Z is really, focused on is that flexibility. I think this is a really hard one for trucking. It can be, right? So, Dot Foods, they have a training schedule or a traditional schedule, like, hey, you're on 5 days a week, you're off 2. Then they have the schedule, you're on 4 days, you're off 4 days, you're on 4 days, off 4 days. And they have it scheduled throughout the year. So you know exactly the days you're off, you can schedule vacations around it. Maybe you can offer more time off and, condense their work hours and provide more time off. So kind of thinking about what you can do. I was talking to a room of ready mix safety professionals, and we were discussing like, hey, what can you do? And they were like, well, we couldn't provide very much flexibility. A lot of it's 6 days a week, what we do, but they were able to find a time where they could get their drivers 2 days off of work in a row. So, maybe you're off Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe it's not the weekend, or maybe it's Sunday, Monday. So thinking outside the box, are there ways that you can be flexible? I talked with a shop once, and they created this flex schedule where you can come in anytime between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Now you have to let your manager know, but that your hours, you can start at 7 and then leave at 3, or maybe you can start at 10 and leave at 6. But this will help if you have dentist appointments or you have a play, you want to see your child in the school play. And what they found when they gave the autonomy to the technician to kind of create the schedule based on what their needs were, the productivity went up for the technicians, which I thought was very interesting. So they felt a little bit of ownership of their job, and it increased their productivity because of them creating their own schedule. Now, of course, the schedule had to be, approved by their supervisor, but being flexible is something that we all need to explore. What can we do to be more flexible for the future generation? And I have to say this, my first job right out of college, and I was so excited to get this job. I had 0 vacation days the first year. And I was like, okay with that, right? I'm like, hey, I'm just excited to have this job. And the second year I had 5 vacation days. But nowadays, I mean, they expect time off. They need mental health days and personal days and vacation days. So we need to make sure we're aligning our policies to what their expectations are. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit harder to attract them if you have 0 vacation days. Not like when I was coming out of college in my first job, I was fine with it. Another thing that's really important to Gen Z is company culture. Do you have a pet policy? Can they go and see the world with their pet? Do you celebrate the milestones of your employees? Maybe it's safe driver, safe miles. Maybe are you celebrating Truck Driver Appreciation Week? And what are all the things you're doing? And being able to promote that on social media, promoting it on your website. Do you offer touch a truck events where families come on site and you have a family day at your facilities? There's a lot of things that you can do to build your company culture. And in company culture, it needs to be genuine, right? Because you care about your people and you want to recognize them. Because without them, what you do doesn't work, right? You've got to have them. And so make it a great place to work and explore all the different things that you can do to make where you work better. What are you doing to promote company culture and to build up the employees? And make sure that you are putting that as a huge focus. Here's a young man I met, and he's a technician, and he went right out to work for a big company being a technician. He didn't like it, right? He was a number. he didn't feel like they cared about him, and he just kind of felt like he got lost in the shuffle. Well, then he went and worked for a local dealership. That's a pretty big dealership, but it's local. And he felt like they cared about him. They knew his family. If he was sick or needed a day off, they would work with him. He felt more like a person and not a number. And he told me that he wishes when he was in school, studying to be a diesel mechanic, he was in high school studying to be a diesel mechanic. He wishes that he had people from that company come and talk to him and tell him about what to look for in a company. And so if you have employees and you have school programs, why don't you let them go and talk to the students? And that's going to be a huge promotion of your company and what your culture is. So make sure that you are working with your local schools in order to reach young people so that they know about opportunities in their area, and then make sure they know what you value as an employer, so they can see if that aligns with what they want for their future. Pay and benefits is always an important thing. Be straightforward with your pay and with your benefits. Don't make them guess on how much they might make and what they're going to, I mean, this is like, you know how much you're going to make. You pretty much know your hours, you know your benefits package. If you can be as straightforward as possible, Gen Z is going to appreciate that. They don't want to interview for a company where they have no idea what the starting salary is going to be. And maybe you have milestones where, you know, they've worked for you for 6 months, for a year. What are those milestones? How are they going to increase in their pay because they've increased in their skill level with you? So pay and benefits is a big factor for Gen Z and retaining them. And don't over promise and under deliver, under promise and over deliver, right? So now you've attracted them, you've retained them. How do you manage them? I mean, this could be a hard thing. And I think over the next years, as we get more Gen Zers in the workplace, we're really going to start learning how to manage Gen Z. But from our research today, right, look at this picture. They're all looking at their phones. So we know that they're going to come in with a phone in their hand. I watched a meme recently, and it was this kid trying to call, and he wasn't a kid. I mean, I'm telling you, he was probably in his early 20s, but he was with his mom, and he was trying to make a dentist appointment. And he hardly could talk on the phone. He said, "What do I say? Like, I want to make an appointment. And yeah, your next available is great." But he didn't even know what to say. So we might have some training things that we're going to have to do to put Gen Z up to speed where, you know, we didn't have cell phones when we were growing up, and we didn't text. So it was phone conversations, it was face-to-face conversations. So what are things that we can do to understand where they're coming from and take them to where we want them to be? And that might be a lot of training and hand-holding in something as simple as, how do you have a phone conversation? My son, who's 12, actually, no, he's 13 now, but he was answering the phone and he didn't say hello. He would just answer it. And we were like, hello? Like, they just don't know. Like, you answer the phone and you say hello, or, you know, hey, Lindsay here, how can I help you? But they don't know this. So we might have to really kind of take a step back and see where they're at in order to get them where we want them to be. So something that Gen Z, like, they're all about collaborating and communicating in their way. So there are all these apps nowadays that you can have project management in Basecamp. You have Teams, you have Slack. I mean, a lot of companies have internal messaging systems. So what can you do as a company to have internal communication systems that will that Gen Z can relate to, right? So these are some very important things. We need to have open communication. We need to collaborate with Gen Z, and we need to bring them into the picture. Like, we want their opinion. You might be 60 years old and think this 20-year-old does not have any information for me that I can learn from, but actually maybe they do. What can you do to bring them in and collaborate with you? So interestingly about Gen Z is that they want to be independent and autonomous. So they want all of that, but they also want collaboration and they want communication and teamwork. So giving them space, giving them training and a job to do, allowing that space, but making sure you're collaborating and you're staying connected with them and you're allowing for them to bring their opinions into the mix of things. I met this young lady who at 18 got her CDL, knew she wanted to drive. And what was really interesting was that she felt like a lot of the older drivers talked down to her, and she did not like that. She wanted to be a part of the team, and she wanted her opinion to matter. And so the more you can bring young people into the fold, mentor them instead of say, oh, well, you don't have anything to give. They do. They have things that they want to give. They want to give back. They want to be a part of the mission. And so what can you do to uphold them and help make what they say, what they do matters? And so that is going to be really important as we move forward. Work-life balance, right? What are you doing to help Gen Z with that work-life balance? They expect that, right? Like I told you, I had 0 vacation days my first year, my first professional job. Well, that's not going to fly anymore today. 81% of employees say flexibility is going to be really important in choosing where they work and continuing to work for that company. So you might have to, relook at your policies and say, do I provide work-life balance for my employees? Am I, providing opportunities for them to take a break from sitting behind the wheel or sitting behind the desk? What am I doing? How can I allow this work-life balance? Mellon Truck Lines, interestingly, they had a policy where if you wanted to take your time off while you were making a delivery, you could. So there was somebody, he wanted to go to Niagara Falls. So he had to make a delivery near Niagara Falls, and he always wanted to see Niagara Falls. And so instead of taking his load back home and taking his break there, he took his break at Niagara Falls, where he got to go hiking and fishing and check out the Niagara Falls. And so maybe that is something that you can do to provide work-life balance for your employees, for your drivers. So thinking outside the box, getting together with a group of other employees and say, I know we don't have the greatest amount of flexibility, but what can we do to provide some work-life balance? That's going to be important and go a long way. Hey, we've got to embrace technology, right? We've said Gen Z, they were literally born with a phone in their hand or an iPad. Oftentimes I have a picture of my daughter at 2 years old with an iPad, and she knew exactly how to swipe and to get into it and do all this stuff. They were born with this. And so when they come to work for a company, they expect technology to be a part of their job. So we talked about Infinity, right? They've got their training on the phone. That technology is important to Gen Z. Do you have platforms that your TMS system, can they access TMS on their phone? Do they have tablets in the truck? It is important to consider what you're doing to bring technology into your company. The other thing, though, that is important is just because Gen Z was born with a phone in their hand, doesn't mean they automatically understand how to work this technology. Make sure you train them. They'll probably pick it up really quickly, but you do need to train them on how to utilize the technology. So don't think, well, they're young, they'll be fine. No, make sure you take them through, train them on it, and then they will probably be some of your best cheerleaders on the technology and hopefully training the older generation. And inside the truck, right? I mean, you've got lane mitigation and collision avoidance. Make sure that you are training them on all of the technology in the truck. Show them what kind of technology you have and what they can have when they come and work for you, what kind of truck that they can get. That's going to be impressive to them. They're going to be excited to work in a truck that has all this amazing technology. And we are getting more and more technology every day, and it is getting fancy. And, you know, last thing, because we're getting ready to open it up to questions, and hopefully we have a few questions, is what is mental health needs? So, I mean, when we were younger and now we expect healthcare benefits, right? Well, this generation, they are going to be expecting some mental health benefits, whether it's, you know, personal days, or they have access to psychological appointments, therapist appointments. What are you going to do to provide those mental health needs for them? I'm really excited to say that we are getting ready. We just got a grant from the Trucking Cares Foundation and from Pilot Foundation. And we are creating a health and wellness video series for drivers. So this is going to teach you, hey, how do you go into a truck stop and make healthy decisions? How do you exercise when you're with your truck? We know that your food choices, your exercise choices, those all help with your mental health. But these programs are also going to say, hey, breathing techniques on the road, different ways to help with their mental health. And we hope that you'll be able to access this free through your LMS platforms. So we'll have to talk about that with Infinity, but we're really excited about that. But Gen Z, it's not taboo. Mental health is not taboo to them like it was to us, you know, Gen X and baby boomers, right? They talk about it openly. They expect it as a part of their benefit package. So start to think today, like, what are you doing now to provide mental health needs and to provide that for your employees? So with all that being said, if you utilize this messaging, you are going to start to attract Gen Z and maintain them. And I have to tell you something interesting that Mike Rowe said. He said that for every 5 baby boomers that are retiring today, there's only 2 skilled workers from the younger generation to backfill their place. So with what we are doing is very important. We have got to partner with local schools and be in the community and promote trucking as a positive career field in order to continue our mission, which is delivering products and making the world a better place, right?
Absolutely. Very good. Lindsey, this is really, really good information. A lot of stuff that I was not really aware of. Being a baby boomer, I need to catch up a little bit on some of the newer generations. But a couple of things. What you mentioned, flexibility, and I think there are probably a lot of companies sitting out there, having heard what you said. You know, we're going to have to change quite a few things that we do, and I think everybody has seen this coming. We know there's going to be a shortage of drivers. I think companies are going to have to rethink how they arrange routes and do things like that. But, you know, to continue in business, we're going to have to be flexible and make changes. One question I have there are still quite a few companies out there. I call them long haul over the road, where the drivers are gone 2-3 weeks at a time and they live in a sleeper and do that. Is there a negative feeling among the Gen Zers about that kind of a position?
Well,
Or
I
are there
think,
some that would embrace that?
yeah, I think that's a great question. Gen Zers are into gaming, right? What
Right.
if they could go over the road and still have access to all their friends because they've got the headsets and they're playing games on their break? And so we need to kind of think outside the box on things like that, that Gen Zers, they might not want to be an over the road driver forever, but there is a time that it will fit within their lifestyle and that they can see the country and still be connected to their friends and family through technology and through gaming. And so providing opportunities for young people to see, hey, you can game while you're on the road. I mean, I think that's a great selling point. So I think that another thing that I know a lot of companies are doing are doing relays, right? So instead of going out and back, you're out and somebody else is out, you meet halfway and then you go back, right? So you're home every night. So trying to see, are there other opportunities and ways that we can shorten our routes? And maybe there's not, but trying to find other ways to attract people. If it's a pet policy, if it's a spouse policy, I mean, it's trying to, make it all work.
Absolutely. And, I guess I asked the question because I don't want companies out there that have that sort of a business model to think, well, there's no way I can attract people from this generation unless I change everything. But it sounds as though with proper accommodations, that would still be a viable opportunity for a Gen Zer to take sort of these long times away from home. Some, I know a lot of drivers prefer that.
Yeah.
They're independent. They love the autonomy and doing their own thing. So appreciate that information. A lot of our clients out there and companies that we're familiar with use mentors, a veteran person that can share some time with the new driver. Do Gen Z folks embrace that sort of an idea, even though it might not be a Gen Z mentor?
Absolutely, they do. And there is something that I did find interesting though. And there's a certain age gap that if the mentee and the mentor are if they have a certain age gap, the mentor really needs to try a lot harder and communicate a lot more in order to relate to the younger person. So maybe if you can have, a closer age gap, but if you don't, just know that you have to try harder and work harder at communicating because there are some differences there. But having a mentor program is a great way to build that relatability and build that connection between employees.
Very good. Very good. I know we're getting close to our hour time limit. One thing I did want to comment on, you mentioned here toward the end about affording, mental health and, appreciating that and promoting that. I have to tell you, everyone, we have content recently put there. We call it Driving Well,
Great.
which talks about anxiety, depression. Mark and I have talked about this, and I was kind of curious of how that content would be accepted. And almost immediately, Lindsey, it was one of the most assigned pieces of content in the system. And I think, the Gen Zers will grab it really quickly, but I think given an opportunity, there are a lot of other people out there that aren't that comfortable talking about it, but they certainly might want to learn a little bit more, get some advice through a video platform. So I just wanted to throw that out there that
That's great. Thank you for
we've
doing
kind of
that. You're right.
recognized the value and the importance of, because the job can be quite stressful.
Yeah, for sure.
Deadlines and find a place to park and all the issues that truck drivers run into I think you have to support that, and I would think the Gen Zers
Yeah,
would
just
be
dealing
all
with all
behind
the
that.
other drivers on the road. I mean, you know,
Right.
the cars on the road has got to be
Exactly.
successful day in and day out.
One thing I want to do, and Lindsey, thank you very much. I'm going to pop a little poll up here on the screen. We obviously are in the training business. For anybody out there that's not a current client, if you'd like to understand a little bit more about our Infinity system, feel free to answer yes or no there. And also, we do provide the entry-level driver training content, the theory portion. We are a registered provider with FMCSA for that. So if anybody has an interest in any of those things, feel free to indicate that here on the poll. But having said that, Lindsey, I very much enjoyed your presentation. I think it was a real eye-opener, I believe, for folks out there that are considering Gen Z. Mark, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I got a couple of really good questions, but one of them's particular about owner operators and entrepreneurial aspirations of Gen Z. Is that
Yeah.
did you have a comment on that, or?
Yeah, that's great. They're very entrepreneurial. And so selling, and I probably should have mentioned that with the career pass, they are a very entrepreneurial generation, and they want to know, and a lot of them don't know, that you can own your own truck. And so providing them opportunities to become an owner operator is very important. And I think that we're going to attract a lot of Gen Zers because of them being able to own and operate their own small business while on the road.
So a career path that leads to an owner operator is
Absolutely.
something that
Huge.
is attractive to the Gen Z. And the other question, of course, was time management skills. And I don't know if you have something specific on time management or not, but that's obviously something that our Gen Zers need to work on.
Absolutely. I agree. And we probably should create some curriculum for that, shouldn't we?
Yes.
I don't think I should write it though. I'm not that great.
And I know we're running out of time, but I'd like all the participants to send a thank you note through chat or to Lindsey for what she does, introducing our industry to the Gen Z population that's out there. You obviously have spent a lot of time and effort on that, and we appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate it. And you can visit our website, nextgentrucking.org. Follow us on LinkedIn or follow me on LinkedIn, Lindsey Trent. I'd love to connect with you all.
And before, one last question, and I know there's a lot of people out here that say, oh, this all sounds good, but my people that I want to hire need help in getting a CDL. Is NextGen a resource for at least a referral, or how I can connect some individuals to obtaining a CDL?
Yeah, I mean, we work with a lot of employers that hire new entrants into the industry, so we can surely connect them there. And we work with a lot of schools that are training CDL drivers and can help find funding for those drivers too.
Perfect.
Very good. Lindsey, we're going to conclude the program. Thank you very much. Outstanding information. I'm sure if any of you have further questions, reach out to Lindsey or Dave on the contact information here on the screen. And Lindsey, I'm going to look forward to having you on again when the next generation comes along, so we can understand what comes after Gen Z.
That sounds great. I'll be glad to.
We enjoyed a great program. Thank you all for joining us today. Hope to catch you on the next program. Thank you.